piece that I'm working on today is from, like, sort of inspired by a photograph from the garden center. So it's a little bit more, not realistic, because I don't do that, but more derivative, I guess, more representational than what I normally do. So I am going to be working on that. Hey, Mary Davis. Yay, she's here. So I'm going to be working on this. And let me see if I can show you. I've got it on my iPad here. This is the reference photo that I'm working from. So lots of color and movement in that. And I'm working on a small canvas, which may be a challenge for y'all to see. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I've already started kind of working on getting the shapes and blocking in there. This is like majorly different for me. I mean, I do this stuff sometimes, but it's not my bailiwick. So we're just gonna roll with it and see what happens. True to form, though, I am not using brushes. I'm using these little tools that are called, they're Princeton Catalyst blades. I use the wedges a lot on the big pieces, and I use these too. So I'm just kind of smashing the paint around with these. Slap some paint on it, right? So doing, and we shall see what develops. So let me show you. I'll show you one more time the reference image for those of you that have just popped on. Hi, Ann. Can y'all see that? Oh, it went dark. There it is. So there it is. I'm going to get started on this. Well, I already did get started, but I'm going to keep moving with this. So I'm just kind of smooshing color on and letting shapes happen. And I'm using the photo as a reference, but y'all know me, it's not going to look like the photo. Okay, so Mary's asking to see my palette. I think you can see that. That's my palette. That's where I'm working. I have a little, like a plastic tray, and I use freezer paper. That's what that is. I cover the surface of my palette of my table with freezer paper. It makes a great palette. It's cheap. It's Reynolds freezer paper. You can get it at the grocery store. It's cheap. Get a big roll of it, and I cover my table with it. I use it as a palette, and it lasts forever. And I just, you know, anything that dries on there, it just peels right off. So that's what I'm doing. And Mary asked about the colors that I'm choosing. So in the reference photo, I've got the gray background. You can kind of see. So you can kind of see where I'm kind of going with this. And all of this through here, I'm just kind of laying in this darker green that's underneath. And that's what this is. So And I didn't put it, I'm going to put a little bit more at the top. Now that I'm looking at the photo again, I'm going to go up top with a little more of the darker green too. So it's just sort of the under colors, the darker under colors, and then the lighter green, I'm going to go over top of that with lighter green. And I'm just using, this is the tool that I'm using. It's the Princeton Catalyst blade. And I just smush the paint on and then use the corner of it to kind of like scribble around with it. And it just makes shapes that have movement to them. You know, suggestive of foliage, but not being so literal. I have to think about my words. So that's kind of got this, just the beginning of blocking it in. And I'll show you, so you can see the painting here. I'll come in a little bit closer for you. And then this is the reference photo. So I'm trying to block in abstract shapes and colors that are represent what's going on in the photo, but not exactly. And it's kind of interesting too to as I hold the phone like this to see the piece so y'all can see it. I can see it on my screen here, and it's kind of interesting how that gives me a different perspective on what I've got going there. So when I look at it directly on, it looks like a mess. But when I'm looking at it in the screen, I can really see the shapes and the shadows starting to develop in it. That I can't see when I'm just looking directly at the canvas. It's kind of interesting how that works. It's always a good idea to take a photo of your work as you're working on it, for that reason, because you'll see things differently in a photograph than you would in real life. So that might be Anne saying that maybe the reason I had to think for my words, is because I'm in right brain mode when I'm painting and words come from the left brain. That's possible. I don't know. But sometimes I have to like look for my words when I'm not painting. I just think it's my brain. I remember my daughter one time, one of my favorite quotes from my daughter was, she told my son that she said, Adam, do that thing where you go back in time in your mind. And he said, do you mean remembering? And that's exactly what she's talking about. She couldn't come up with the word remember. So she told him to go back in time in his mind. And she was like 12 at the time. It wasn't like she was 4 or anything. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, Kim says she always takes photos of her paintings. Yeah, you do. Like, take a photo of it. It's good to also, like, several suggestions. When you're working on a painting, to walk away from it and just don't look at it for a few minutes and then come back to see it, but stand back from a distance. Or if you have somebody else that can hold it back for you. Whenever I'm doing, when I'm teaching, when I'm doing classes, and my students are like so focused on what they're doing and they're getting mega frustrated, it always helps them if I grab the painting and stand 8 feet away from them so they can see it at a distance. When you're so focused on it, all you can see are the little bits that you don't like, and you can't really fully see the entire effect of the painting. So it's good to get away from it. And also it's really good to take a photograph of it and take a look at it in the photograph. And I even suggest, like, take a photograph and then, like, wait and look at it a while later. Stop what you're doing. If you're struggling, stop what you're doing, take a photograph, walk away from it, and then look at the photograph a little bit later when what you were seeing in the painting is not fresh in your mind. And it'll help you see it from maybe a different perspective, and different things will jump out at you. But yeah, for this, for this, I can really, like, looking at it in the camera, it looks really different than it does looking at it in person.